Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon so that you never miss any video lesson from Rao's IAS Study Circle.
Hello and welcome to Daily News Simplified, an analysis of the Hindu newspaper from UPSC perspective. Today we will discuss the daily edition of the Hindu newspaper dated 30th November 2020. And the articles that we will discuss today are displayed on your screen. So let us start our discussion. Now, after looking at the topics that we are going to discuss today, let us look at the key takeaways from this discussion. Now, first article that we are going to discuss here is related to the assassination of an Iranian scientist. Now, the assassination of this Iranian scientist gains importance because he was considered as one of the important pillars of the Iran's nuclear weapons program. And in this slide, the US intelligence agencies have highlighted Israel's role in this assassination. Further, why did this assassination happen at this point of time? So in this regard, we are going to look at the US election outcome and its relation with the assassination of the Iranian scientist by the Israel. The next article that we will discuss here is related to the new appointments that are being done by the Joe Biden under his new administration. So in this regard, we will look at the importance of these appointments on different foreign policy pursuits of the United States of America. And how are these appointments going to impact the United States of America's foreign policy pursuits vis-a-vis the climate change, its outlook towards the United Nations, its relations with the European countries, etc. And finally, we'll look at the impact of these appointments on the US-India relations. The third article that we discuss here is related to the Chinese dam projects on the Brahmaputra River in the Tibetan region. So in this regard, we will be looking at important concerns of India and also what are the strengths and weaknesses of India vis-a-vis China regarding these projects on the Brahmaputra in the higher reaches in the Tibetan region. So let us start with the first article, which is related to the assassination of the Iranian scientist by Israel. Now, this article on page number 7 is related to the recent killing of the most important nuclear scientist of Iran, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Now, Mohammad Fakhrizadeh was one of the important scientists who played a key role in the nuclear weapons program of Iran. And a few days back, he was assassinated near the capital of Iran, that is Tehran. Now, Israel's Mossad is being seen behind this assassination, and in this background, let us try and understand the implications of killings of the Mohsen Fakhrizadeh for the geopolitics of the West Asian region. And they can be important for us from General Studies Paper 2 point of view under the topic International Relations. So first we will try and understand who was Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, why was he important to Iran, and what was Israel's role in the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. And finally, we will look at the correlation between the timing of the assassination and the election results of the United States of America. Now, first thing that we need to understand here is that who was Mohsen Fakhrizadeh and why was he important to Iran and why was he a key figure in the Iran's nuclear program. So according to the US and Israel, he had overseen Iran's nuclear weapons program in 1990s and early 2000s. And he had remained a key figure in Iran's nuclear program and the defense ministry. And that is why he was one of the important personalities in Iran's defense system. Now, this killing of the Iranian scientist has come in the background of the killing of General Qasem Soleimani, who was also one of the important figures in the Iranian military. And Qasem Soleimani was assassinated by the United States of America through a drone attack in the Iraq's capital, Baghdad. Now, previously also such kinds of assassinations have taken place. And in the past, at least 6 Iranian scientists were killed in bomb and gun attacks in which Israel's hand was suspected. And accordingly, even in this killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, Israel's role is being ascertained. And according to the US intelligence agencies, they have said that this attack was carried out by Israel. Now, Israel had already been carrying out such assassination attempts against the Iranian scientists when it was known that Iran is developing its nuclear weapons program. However, such assassinations by Israel had stopped after the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or the Iran nuclear deal, which was signed under the Obama administration. And this JCPOA or the Iran nuclear deal imposed strict restrictions on the Iran's nuclear program, and as such, Israel was assured that the Iran will not be pursuing its nuclear weapons program anymore. And as such kind of assassinations by the Israel had stopped by then. However, we already note that the Donald Trump administration had pulled out of this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or the Iranian nuclear deal. And the US administration had tried to impose sanctions on the Iran. And in retaliation to the United States of America's withdrawal from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or the Iran nuclear deal and the reimposition of stringent sanctions by the United States of America, Iran again started enriching uranium and it started stockpiling uranium beyond the limits that were prescribed under this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And as Iran has again started its nuclear weapons program or has started enriching the uranium and increasing its stockpile beyond the limits that were prescribed by the JCPOA, Israel has again started its assassinations against important nuclear scientists of Iran. And in this background, the killing of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh, who was considered as one of the most important figures in the Iran's nuclear weapons program, becomes very important. Now, after looking at the background of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh and Iran's nuclear weapons program and also the Israel's role in assassination of Iranian scientists, let us look at the timing of this assassination attempt by the Israel and what was the ulterior motive behind this and how the US election occasioned the killing of the nuclear scientist of Iran, Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Now, we all know that Donald Trump has lost the presidential elections of the United States of America. And Joe Biden is the new president elect of the United States of America who will be joining the office from 20th January 2021. And the new president elect Joe Biden has indicated that he will be reviving the Iran nuclear deal or the Joint Comprehensive Action Plan which was started by Obama administration. And as Joe Biden has indicated the revival of the Iran nuclear deal, Iran has also declared that it is willing to comply by the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, under this Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, there are certain restrictions that are imposed on Iran regarding its nuclear enrichment facilities and also monitoring of the nuclear program of Iran. And if this JCPOA is revived, Iran will not have to undergo the sanctions from the US administration. Now, earlier, Donald Trump had withdrawn from the Iran nuclear deal or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And Israel, in this background, had supported the President Donald Trump's withdrawal from the Iranian nuclear deal. And they had supported the President Donald Trump's policy of putting maximum pressure on Tehran. And Israel also believed in Donald Trump's policy of forcing Iran to give up permanently its quest for nuclear enrichment. Also, US wanted to freeze the Israel's ballistic missile program and also ending its support to the regional allies which were perceived as threatening American and Israeli interests. And that is why Israel had supported the Donald Trump administration's policy of withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal and also cutting the regional ties of Iran with those countries which threatened the interests of America. And these were the similar interests that Israel had in the region. However, with the election of Biden, Israel thinks that its nuclear monopoly in the West Asia will now be threatened. And why will it be so? So it will be so because if Biden administration revives the Iran nuclear deal, the Iran is most likely to increase its nuclear weapons program and that is likely to threaten the nuclear monopoly of Israel in the West Asian region. So what was the aim of Israel in executing this assassination attempt at this point of time when Donald Trump is going out of the presidential office and Joe Biden will be coming or joining the office from January 20, 2021? So this assassination attempt by Israel is being seen as an effort to start confrontation between the US and Iran while Donald Trump is still in the office for the next 2 months or so. Now, as the US President Donald Trump has shown interest in bombing the nuclear facilities in Iran recently, Israel wants that confrontation to happen right now before Trump leaves the presidential office of United States of America. And this attempt or this assassination attempt is being seen as a larger plan of Israel and Saudi Arabia to force the US into taking the military action against Iran. Now, we all know that Israel and Arab countries did not have very good relations for the past 60 to 70 years. And that was because of the wars that were fought between Israel and the Arab countries. However, recently under the Trump administration, some peace agreements have been signed between Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, etc., and Israel on the other side. Further, the relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia have been on improving trajectory because of the intervention of United States of America. And this could be clearly seen by the recent visit of the Prime Minister of Israel to the city of Neom in Saudi Arabia, where the officials of United States Donald Trump administration also visited. So in the backdoor channels, there have been attempts of improving the relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel on the one hand. And all these attempts at improving the Israel and Saudi Arabia relations are being seen as aimed at Iran. So US under Donald Trump administration was seen as moving away from pursuing a balanced approach vis-a-vis Saudi Arabia and Iran. And the Trump administration had been clearly targeting Iran, which was visible in the withdrawal of the US from the Iranian nuclear deal or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, and also the recent peace agreements between the Israel and Arab countries. So, most of the political commentators have stated that this killing or assassination of Mohsen Fakhrizadeh is being seen as an attempt to complicate Joe Biden's attempt to revive the Iranian nuclear deal or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. And the US intelligence agencies have said that this assassination attempt was made by the Israeli authorities. So clearly, Israel wants a confrontation or military attack to happen between the US and the Iran at this point before Donald Trump administration leaves the office on 20th January 2021. So we have seen the role of Israel and the impact of US election results on this assassination attempt that has happened in the Iran and how it changes the geopolitics of West Asian region. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 6 talks about the new appointees that have been appointed under the new President-elect Joe Biden's administration, and how these new appointments are likely to impact the United States of America's outlook of the global geopolitics. So some of the points that we discuss here can be important in General Studies paper 2 in the topic International Relations. And let us look at the impact of these appointments on the foreign policy goals of United States of America under the President-elect Joe Biden. Now, as far as the foreign policy goals of the new President-elect Joe Biden are concerned, he has argued for a liberal internationalist foreign policy, and which has been highlighted in the words, "Once more place America at the head of the table." Now, this is in contrast to the Donald Trump's policy of America First. And under this America First policy, Donald Trump had conducted various foreign policy blunders. And these included the withdrawal of the United States from the UNESCO Human Rights Council, also withdrawal of United States of America from some of the important international climate agreements like the Paris deal, and also withdrawal of US from the Iran nuclear deal, which was a key deal related to the peace in the West Asian region. So in contrast to Donald Trump's America First policy, Joe Biden aims at pursuing a policy which is known as "Once more place America at the head of the table." So in this regard, he has made various appointments for his new administration. So let us look at the different aspects of the foreign policy of United States of America and how the new appointments are going to impact them. So first in this regard is the US's approach towards United Nations. Now we already know that Donald Trump had withdrawn from the UNESCO and the Human Rights Council. However, Joe Biden has appointed Linda Thomas Greenfield from Obama administration as the US ambassador to the United Nations. Now, what is the importance of her appointment as the ambassador to the UN? So her appointment is being seen as relevant in the United States' efforts to increase trust with the non-Western diplomats. And this is being seen as important at a time when China has sought to expand its influence at the United Nations. So by clearly appointing the Obama administration Linda Thomas Greenfield, who has good amount of trust with the non-Western diplomats, America will be able to control or check the increasing influence of China at the United Nations. Secondly, as far as Europe is concerned, it has always been one of the good partners of United States of America, or it has been the evergreen partner of United States of America ever since the First and the Second World War. However, Donald Trump had threatened to pull out of the NATO, which was created post the Second World War. Now, the appointment of Obama-era Antony Blinken as the Secretary of the State is likely to bring the US-Europe relations on the right track once again. So, under the policy of once more placing America at the head of the table, The new appointments that have been made by the Joe Biden administration are likely to increase the America's influence at the United Nations and bring the relations with the European nations on the right track once again. Further, as far as the climate change is concerned, we all know that the Donald Trump had withdrawn from the Paris climate deal. However, now the former Secretary of the State, John Kerry, who was the Secretary of the State under the Obama administration, has been appointed as the Special Presidential Envoy for Climate by the Joe Biden. Now, this reflects the high priority that the Biden administration is according to the issue of climate change, which was ignored by the Trump administration. Also, Joe Biden has pledged to reverse the Donald Trump's decision of withdrawal from the Paris climate deal. So all these indicate a positive outlook of United States of America towards the climate change issue. Now, regarding the Iran nuclear deal, we already note that the Donald Trump administration had withdrawn from the Iran nuclear deal, which was also known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. Now, in this regard, Jake Sullivan, who had served as National Security Advisor under Obama, will again be appointed as the National Security Advisor under the Biden regime. Now, he was the one who had played a key role in the finalization of Iran nuclear deal or the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action. So his appointment once again as the National Security Advisor is likely to revive the Iran nuclear deal once again, which has also been hinted at by the Joe Biden. Finally, Jake Sullivan had also played a key role in the implementation of Pivot to Asia policy of the Obama administration. Now, this Pivot to Asia policy is considered as the early precursor of the present Indo-Pacific strategy, which was being followed by the Donald Trump. And under this Indo-Pacific strategy, India assumes a significant position in the US outlook. So after looking at the issues of climate change and the Iran nuclear deal, let us look at what is the outlook for India under the new President-elect Joe Biden's administration. Now, as discussed previously in various DNS videos, most of the experts have highlighted that there will be continuity in India-US relations as strategic partners under the Biden administration. Further, Mr. Blinken, who has been appointed as the Secretary of the State, was staff director on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, whose chairman was Senator Biden, who oversaw the passage of US-India civil nuclear deal. So his appointment once again highlights that India is going to have a favorable outlook from the United States of America as far as the relations between India and US are concerned. Further, appointment of Mr. Sullivan as the National Security Advisor, he has always been a supporter of US-India ties, and he has also highlighted a central position that India occupies in their Pivot to Asia policy. Further, Donald Trump has already been continuing the Obama-era policy with regards to India-US relation. And accordingly, various experts are saying that the Biden administration is also likely to follow the cue. Further, India has been designated as a major defense partner, and also India is a key to United States of America's Indo-Pacific strategy. However, some areas of concern include India's domestic policy restrictions on the erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir, and also various issues related to the citizenship laws. So this is one point of concern that is likely to occur between India and the new administration that has been appointed under the President-elect Joe Biden. Further, as far as China is concerned, the new Secretary of the State, Mr. Blinken, has already invoked Mr. Trump's Indo-Pacific construct to call on India to be a key partner in that effort. So the new Secretary of the State recognizes the position of India with regards to United States of America's Indo-Pacific construct. And we already know that India and US have been collaborating on different fronts in the Indo-Pacific region, and they include the collaboration on the quadrilateral security dialogue, also the Malabar naval exercise, etc., which are all aimed at countering the rise of China in the Indo-Pacific region. Further, India and US relations have been on the right trajectory because India has now become one of the important strategic defense partners of United States of America with the signing of 4 foundational defense agreements, and the most recent one being the signing of BECA, which was signed at the recent 2+2 dialogue. So all these new appointments under Joe Biden highlight that the United States of America is going to continue the foreign policy that was pursued by it under the Obama administration. And some of the foreign policy blunders that were conducted under the Trump administration will now be reversed. For example, the climate change, the Iran nuclear deal, etc. With this, let's take up the next news article now. Now, this article on page number 10 reads that China has given its nod for downstream dam on Brahmaputra. And in this regard, the Chinese media has reported that the Chinese hydropower company has been given the permission to construct the first downstream dam on the lower reaches of Brahmaputra, or the Yarlung Zangpo as it is known in the Tibet region. Now, this permission has been provided under its new 5-year plan that will run from 2021 to 2025. Further, in 2015, China operationalized its first hydropower project at Zangmo in Tibet, while three other dams at Dagu, Zixu, and Jaicha are still under development. Now, all these dams that were earlier started or were under development were being developed on the upper reaches or the middle reaches of the river Brahmaputra or the Yarlung Sangpo. However, this new dam's permission, which has been provided under the new 5-year plan, is being developed right at the point where Brahmaputra takes a U turn, which is known as the syntaxial bend. Now, although Chinese authorities have provided permission for the construction of this dam, its location has not been clarified as of now. However, it is being said that it will be developed very close to the Indian state of Arunachal Pradesh at the point where the Brahmaputra takes a U-turn at the syntaxial bend. So in this regard, let us look at the key locations of the dams that were being developed earlier by China, and also what are the implications for India and what are the concerns that are being raised by India in this regard. And they can be important for us from General Studies paper 2 point of view under the topic International Relations. And they can also be important for us from GS paper 1 point of view in the topic Resource Geography. And you might be knowing that questions have already been asked in previous years related to resource geography. For example, this question was asked in GS paper 1 and it was related to India's interest in the Arctic region. And again, this question was also related to resource geography, and this was related to the South China Sea. And the question read, South China Sea has assumed great geopolitical significance in the present context, comment. So both these questions, although they looked like the questions of international relations, they were related to resource geography or the world resource geography. And accordingly, this topic of the dams that are being developed by China on the Brahmaputra river can also be considered as an important topic for us from the resource geography point of view, as it is related to the most important resource between both these countries, that is water resource. So let us look at the key aspects of the dam development by the China on the Brahmaputra river and also its implications and concerns for India. And you can expect a question in the General Studies paper 1 related to this particular aspect.
Now, first, let us look at the geography of the rivers which are flowing into India from China. Now, before understanding the geography, let us understand the importance of water resources for both these countries. Now, China and India account for 20% and 17% population of the world respectively. And as far as water resources are concerned, they account for only 7% of the world resources, and India has only 4% of the world's water resources. Now, in this background, China has shown its intention to triple its hydropower capacity. And it has also shown its intention that it will construct dam on various transboundary rivers to achieve the hydropower targets. And in this background, China has shown its intentions of constructing dams on the Yarlung Sangpo River, which enters into Arunachal Pradesh in India through the Great Syntaxial Band. And when it enters Arunachal Pradesh, it is known as Brahmaputra River, and after entering Bangladesh, it is known as the Jamuna River. Now, as these rivers are transboundary rivers and they are flowing from one country to other, there are serious contestations between the countries which are using the water. Now, if you look at the location of China, it is the only country in the region which is completely upper riparian, which lends it an unparalleled advantage and power to influence the flow of water to nations which are downstream. Now, as the source or the origin of the rivers is from China in the Tibet region, it is the upper riparian state. And as such, it has advantage and the power to influence the flow of water from its territory to the territory of India and the lower riparian countries like Bangladesh, etc. Now, what is the importance of this Tibet region as far as the water disputes between India and China are concerned? Now, as we know that China is in control of the Tibet region, and Tibet is home to the largest freshwater resources or reserves outside the North and the South Pole. And it is source of some of the Asia's most important rivers, which include the Indus River, the Ganga River, Brahmaputra River, Irrawaddy, Mekong, Yangtze, etc. And all these rivers are transboundary in nature. So that is why such a situation and location of Tibet becomes extremely important as far as transboundary water sharing is concerned. So in this background, let us understand which all dams are being constructed by China and what are the concerns which have been raised by India. Now, China has completed the Zangmu Dam, which is built on the upper reaches of Brahmaputra River in 2010. And it is planning to develop three more dams, which are the Dagu, Zaicha, and Zixu. And these are presently under construction. So, if you look at the locations of the dams Zixu, Zangmu, and Zaicha, these are located in the upper reaches of the river Brahmaputra. Secondly, the Zam hydropower station, which will be the largest dam on Brahmaputra, also commenced in 2015. However, as far as China's behavior is concerned, China admitted to the construction of this Zangmu Dam only in 2010, and that too after serious denials, which means that China admitted that it was constructing such a dam after a lot of denials previously. And also, China has not yet officially communicated anything about the construction of other three dams, namely Dagu, Zaicha, and Zixu on the Brahmaputra River. Further, China has built more dams on its rivers than the rest of the world combined. And yet, this country does not have any water sharing agreement or treaty with any of its neighbors, including India. And that is one of the biggest concerns which has been raised by India and other neighboring countries who share these transboundary rivers with China. Now, this lack of communication by China has created an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust in India, and especially in the northeastern region of India. Further, China has indicated that three hydropower projects on the main stream of the Brahmaputra River in the Tibet Autonomous Region are approved for implementation. And all these projects are raising concerns for India. So, in this background, let us understand what are the concerns which have been raised by India. Now, as India is a lower riparian state, it is fully dependent on the water of Brahmaputra in its northeastern region. And that is why the government of India has consistently conveyed its view and concerns to the Chinese authorities. And the government of India has also urged them to ensure that the interests of the downstream states are not harmed by any activities in upper stream areas, and especially the dam construction by the China. Now, as a response to the government of India, the Chinese side has conveyed that they are only undertaking run-of-the-river hydropower projects, and such projects do not involve the diversion of waters from the Brahmaputra. Now, these projects are generally used for hydropower projects. However, the water is not stored in such kind of dams. However, India's concern is that such dams are large enough to be converted and used as storage dams. And if this possibility comes true, India will have less amount of water in its lean seasons. Also, in the monsoon season, if more water is released from these dams, there can be flooding in the Brahmaputra basin in Assam. Moreover, if dams are constructed in China, this silt can get trapped in these dams. And if this silt is trapped in the dams, it will not reach the lower riparian areas of Brahmaputra. And this silt is one of the most important for making the Brahmaputra basin fertile. So as such, India has also raised this kind of apprehensions. Further, all these hydropower projects are located in highly volatile tectonic zones. And that is why in such an earthquake-prone zone, such dams can lead to flooding during the earthquake events. Further, in its construction of dams, China has polluted the rivers. And the quality of water that flows downstream is also important for India. Further, if the natural flow of river is disrupted and the natural flood cycles is disrupted, it can have adverse impact on the biogeography, and it can have ecological concerns in India's northeastern region, which is one of the most ecologically important area for India. This is because majority of the forests of India are located in the northeastern region of India, which could be adversely affected by such dams. And last but not the least concern is that India has always been concerned about the Chinese claims on the Arunachal Pradesh. And if China builds dams, especially near the Great Bend or the Great Syntaxial Bend, from where the rivers flow into India. Through this, China could be seeking to leverage its claim over the India's state of Arunachal Pradesh. So India sees this construction of dams as a threat to its sovereignty in the Arunachal Pradesh in northeastern part. Now all these points are important in the General Studies paper 1 under the topic resource geography and what is the likely impact of construction of dams by China on the river Brahmaputra. Now, as a response to the Chinese construction of dams, India has also decided to commence the construction of 14 hydropower projects in Arunachal Pradesh, and most of these dams will be located on the lower path of the Brahmaputra river. Now, an interesting fact about the precipitation over the Brahmaputra basin is that it receives rainfall in two types, and these are simple rainfall during monsoons and snowfall. Now, as the Tibetan part is located in Himalayas, it receives less rainfall as compared to the southern part of basin, which is located in India and Bangladesh. And if you look at the flow of water, around 80% of the flows of Brahmaputra emerge within Indian boundary. Further, various issues relating to trans-border rivers are discussed with China under the ambit of an institutionalized expert-level mechanism which was established in 2006. And also, such discussions are being taken at the diplomatic levels. Further, another strength of India regarding the Brahmaputra basin is that Brahmaputra gets more water from its tributaries once it enters India. And these important tributaries are Dibang, Lohit, and Subansiri. Now, as India is not the only riparian state, India can get support from other countries like Bangladesh, etc., and pressurize the Chinese government on having a river water sharing agreement. So the need of the hour is that India should have a river sharing agreement with China, and this goal can be reached if India lobbies with other lower riparian states who are dependent on rivers which flow from China into their territory.
So these are few important points related to this topic, and with this let's take up the next news article now. Now this article on page number 6 is related to the protests that are going on in the national capital by the Farmer Association and the Farmers of India against the three ordinances and the bills that have been passed by the Government of India. Now in this, one of the important issues here is related to the MSP regime, and the farmers are fearing that there will be an end of the minimum support price regime that is presently being conducted by the central government and various authorities. So in this regard, in the Daily News Simplified of 17 September 2020, we have already discussed the different acts that have been passed by the Government of India and what are the pros and cons of these particular acts and ordinances that have been passed by the Government of India. And also in this Daily News Simplified, we have discussed in detail the minimum support price regime in India. So do go through this DNS video and try and understand the various aspects of the farmer protests that are going on in national capital currently. Further, this article on page number 6 talks about the issue of recession that India is facing right now. And it is being said that India is now facing a technical recession. Now, different aspects of the recession in India and the state of Indian economy have been discussed in detail in the Daily News Simplified of 1st September 2020. So do go through this video and try and understand this issue of the Indian economy being in recession in detail. With this, we conclude today's discussion. Now let's take up the question for the day.